Tart 7. Daniel called 30 seconds after my message was marked as read. I watched his name flash across the screen. Once. Twice. A third time. Warren looked at me, but he did not tell me what to do. That was another kindness. He let me decide whether I was ready to hear my son's voice. On the fourth call, I answered. "Mom?" Daniel said before I could speak. "What is going on?" His voice was sharp. Not worried. Not sorry. Sharp. I looked at the folder in front of me, at Thomas's handwriting, and kept my own voice even. "I was going to ask you the same thing." There was a pause. Then Vivian's voice came through faintly in the background. "Put it on speaker." Of course she was there. Daniel exhaled. "Mom, this isn't the time to start drama. Emily just got married. She and Mark are trying to enjoy the happiest week of their lives." "I hope they do," I said. "Then why are you making things difficult?" I looked at Warren. His expression did not change, but his eyes grew colder. "Daniel," I said, "your daughter's wedding place card identified me as the main sponsor and told me to sit wherever there was room." He sighed. Actually sighed. "Mom, it was a joke." "No," I said. "It was printed." That silenced him for half a second. Vivian spoke next, louder now. "Clara, you're choosing to be offended. Everyone knows you helped with the wedding. It was meant to be playful. Was the hallway conversation playful too?" The line went quiet. I could almost see her face changing. "What hallway conversation?" Daniel asked. I waited. Vivian answered too quickly. "I don't know what she means. I did not raise my voice. I did not have to. You said I needed to understand my role. You said weddings make old people sentimental. And you said you needed to ask me about the honeymoon while I was emotional." Daniel said nothing. For once, I was grateful for silence. Vivian recovered first. "That is a complete misrepresentation. Then we can discuss it with Warren present," I said. "Warren?" Daniel asked. "Warren Pierce." Another pause. This one felt different. Daniel knew that name. Vivian did too. Warren was not a family friend they could dismiss. He was Thomas's attorney, the man who knew where every account was, every clause, every signature. "Why are you talking to Dad's lawyer?" Daniel asked. "Because your father had more foresight than I did." Vivian's voice sharpened. "Clara, be very careful. You don't want to damage your relationship with your family over one silly card." There it was, the threat wrapped in concern. I looked at Thomas's folder again. For 4 years, I had been careful. Careful with my words. Careful with Daniel's feelings. Careful not to make Vivian dislike me more than she already did. Careful not to become the difficult old mother people complained about after dinner. And still, they had mocked me. So perhaps being careful had never protected me. It had only protected them. "I'm not damaging this family," I said. "I'm finally naming what has been happening inside it." Daniel made a frustrated sound. "Mom, please, just send the money and we'll talk when they get back." No. One word. So small. So clean. I felt it settle between us like a locked door. Vivian laughed under her breath. "You are being ridiculous." "No," I said. "I am being finished." Then I ended the call. My hands were shaking when I set the phone on Warren's desk, but my voice had not shaken once. That mattered to me. Warren waited a moment before speaking. "You did well." I looked at the phone, expecting it to ring again. It did not. Instead, a text appeared from Daniel. "You're embarrassing yourself." I read it once. Then I turned the phone off. For the first time since Thomas died, I did not feel abandoned by the silence that followed. I felt protected by it. Tart 8. When I turned my phone back on that evening, there were 14 missed calls. 7 from Daniel, 4 from Vivian, 2 from Emily, 1 from a number I did not recognize. There were also messages. I did not open them right away. I made tea first. That may sound strange, but there are moments when a small, ordinary act becomes the only thing keeping you from stepping back into old habits. The kettle, the cup, the spoon against the porcelain. They gave my hands something useful to do besides tremble. I sat at the kitchen table with Thomas's folder on one side and the wedding envelope on the other. Then I opened the messages. Daniel's first one was angry, "Mom, you're taking this too far." The second was softer. "Please don't make me choose between you and my wife." The third was the one that hurt. "Dad wouldn't want this." I stared at that sentence for a long time. There are certain names people use when they want to unlock the door to your guilt. Thomas's name had always been that key for me. But this time, it did not work. Because Thomas had already spoken. He had spoken through the folder on my table, through the clauses in the trust, through the envelope marked in his handwriting. Daniel was wrong. Thomas had wanted exactly this. Not conflict. Protection. Vivian's messages were different. Cleaner. Colder. "Clara, you misunderstood a harmless joke. Emily is devastated that you're making her wedding about yourself. We all think it may be time to discuss whether you're under too much stress to manage things alone." I read that last one twice. There it was again. The old threat, dressed in concern. Too stressed. Too emotional. Too old. Not wronged. Not insulted. Not used. Just unstable enough to be dismissed. I placed the phone down and opened my laptop. For years, I had avoided social media except to look at family photos. But that night, I went directly to Vivian's page. She had posted a picture from the wedding. In it, Daniel was giving his toast. Vivian stood beside him, glowing under the ballroom lights. The caption read, "Some people give with love. Others give only when they can control the spotlight." Still, Emily's day was perfect. My stomach tightened. Below it, comments had already begun. "What happened? Ignore negativity. You looked beautiful. Some people can't let the next generation shine." Vivian had started the second trial before I had even finished surviving the first. Only this time, the courtroom was public. I took screenshots of everything. Every comment. Every reply. Every little heart Vivian added under people who insulted me without knowing my name. Then I saw Emily had shared the post. Her caption was shorter, trying to stay positive. "Please don't ask." I closed my eyes. I wanted to protect her. Even then, some foolish grandmother part of me wanted to believe Emily had been pulled into something she did not understand. But she was 26 years old enough to marry, old enough to accept my money, old enough to laugh when her mother pointed at me, old enough to know silence can be a choice. At 8:13, the unknown number called again. I almost ignored it. Then something made me answer. "Mrs. Bennett?" a woman asked. "My name is Laura Miles. I was the assistant coordinator at Emily's wedding last night." I sat up straighter. "Yes. I'm sorry to bother you," she said. Her voice was nervous, young. "But I couldn't stop thinking about your place card." My hand tightened around the phone. She continued quickly, as if afraid she would lose courage. "I printed the final seating cards. Mrs. Vivian Bennett sent the wording herself. She said it was an inside family joke. I should have questioned it. I didn't. For a moment, I could not speak. "Do you still have that email?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "And the design proof." I looked across the table at Thomas's photograph. The house was silent around me. But this silence felt different from the silence after the wedding. This one was listening. "Laura," I said carefully, "would you be willing to forward those to my attorney?" She exhaled, almost with relief. "Yes, ma'am. I think I should." After we hung up, I did not cry. I simply opened the wedding envelope and wrote down her name. Laura Miles, coordinator. Proof of card wording. Then I sat back and looked at the growing stack of evidence. The place card. The checks. The texts. Vivian's post. Emily's share. And now, the email. For the first time, Vivian had left fingerprints. Not on silver. Not on glass. On paper. And paper, I had learned from Thomas, was where polite lies went to die. Tart 9. Laura's email arrived at 9:04 the next morning. I was standing in the kitchen, still in my robe, waiting for the coffee to finish brewing when my laptop chimed. The subject line was simple. Wedding seating card proofs. My hands paused above the keyboard. For a moment, I did not open it. There are strange pauses before truth becomes permanent. A person can suspect something and still leave one small door open for mercy. Maybe Vivian had not written it. Maybe someone else had changed the wording. Maybe Emily had not known. Maybe Daniel had been careless, but not cruel. Maybe. That word had kept me trapped for years. I opened the email. Laura had written only 3 sentences. Mrs. Bennett, attached, is the final proof approved by Mrs. Vivian Bennett 2 days before the wedding. I am also attaching the email chain where she confirmed the wording. I'm very sorry. Below her message were 2 attachments. The first was the place card design. There it was again. Clara Bennett, main sponsor. Seat wherever there's room. The second attachment was the email chain. Vivian's words were clear. Yes, print exactly as written. It's a family joke. She'll understand. She'll understand. Not she'll laugh. Not she approved it. She'll understand. As if humiliation were a language I had been expected to speak fluently. I forwarded everything to Warren without adding a single word. Then I sat at the kitchen table and drank my coffee while it was still too hot. I needed the sting. Warren called 20 minutes later. His voice was quiet. This is strong evidence, Clara. How strong? Strong enough that Vivian cannot claim it was a printing error. Strong enough that Daniel cannot claim he didn't know once we include the texts and his comments during the toast. I looked toward the hallway where Thomas's old coat still hung on the rack. I had never been able to move it. What happens now? I asked. That depends on you. I almost smiled. People had been deciding things around me for so long that the words sounded unfamiliar. We can issue a formal notice, Warren said. It would inform Daniel and Vivian that their conduct may trigger the forfeiture clause in Thomas's trust. It would also stop any further informal requests for money. I knew what that meant. Once the notice was sent, this would no longer be a family disagreement. It would become real. Documented. Named. Will Emily be affected? I asked. She may be, Warren said carefully. Especially if we can show she participated or benefited from pressure placed on you. I closed my eyes. There was the wound. Emily, with her lace gown and bright smile. Emily, who used to fall asleep on my sofa with cookie crumbs on her shirt. Emily, who had sent me drawings when Thomas was in the hospital. But Emily was also the young woman who shared Vivian's post. The young woman who thanked me for helping make everything happen but never asked why I left early. The young woman who may have laughed when Vivian pointed at me. Love does not make someone innocent. It only makes the truth hurt more. I don't want to destroy my family, I said. Warren answered gently. Clara, you are not destroying anything by refusing to be used. After we hung up, I got dressed. I chose a plain blue sweater and dark slacks. Nothing formal, nothing dramatic. I did not need armor that looked like armor. At noon, there was a knock at my front door. Not the doorbell. A knock. Hard. Impatient. I looked through the small window beside the door and saw Daniel standing on the porch. Vivian was behind him, arms crossed, her face tight with controlled irritation. For a second, I felt the old instinct rise in me. Open the door. Smooth things over. Offer coffee. Let them explain. Let them turn the room around until I became the one apologizing. Instead, I left the chain lock in place and opened the door only a few inches. Daniel's expression changed when he saw that. Mom, he said, are you really going to treat us like strangers? I looked at my son through the narrow gap. No, Daniel, I said. Strangers have never asked me for $15,000 the morning after humiliating me. Vivian stepped forward. Clara, this has gone far enough. For the first time, I saw something beneath her polished surface. Not guilt. Fear. Small, but there. I held the door steady. You're right, I said. It has. Tart 10. Vivian's eyes moved from my face to the chain lock on the door. That tiny strip of brass seemed to offend her more than anything I had said. Clara, she said, lowering her voice, open the door. This is embarrassing. I looked past her to the quiet street behind them. Mrs. Holloway from across the road was watering her porch plants. A delivery truck rolled slowly by. Ordinary life kept moving, even while my son and his wife stood on my porch, asking for access they had not earned. I'm comfortable speaking like this, I said. Daniel rubbed his forehead. Mom, please. We're not here to fight. No, I said. You're here because I stopped paying. His face tightened. Vivian gave a little laugh. That is such an ugly thing to say. Then it should have been uglier to do. For once, she did not answer immediately. Daniel stepped closer to the door. You're being influenced. Warren is putting ideas in your head." The old Clara would have flinched at that. She would have hated the thought that her son believed she was so easily led. But that morning, standing behind my own door, I saw the pattern clearly. When I gave money, I was generous. When I asked questions, I was confused. When I said no, I was being influenced. "I had ideas before Warren," I said. "I simply had evidence after him." Vivian's expression shifted. "What evidence?" I held her gaze. "The place card proof. Your email to the coordinator. Daniel's messages. Your post about people wanting the spotlight. Emily's share. The honeymoon request." Daniel turned toward Vivian. "What email?" Vivian's lips parted, then closed. It was the first honest silence I had heard from her. "You told the coordinator to print it exactly as written," I said. "You called it a family joke." Daniel stared at her. "Vivian?" She recovered quickly, but not completely. "It was a joke," she said. "That's what I've been saying. Clara is twisting this because she wants control." "Control of what?" I asked. She looked at me as if the answer were obvious. "The family." I almost smiled. Not because it was funny, because I finally understood how she saw me. A grandmother wanting basic respect was control. A widow protecting her husband's trust was selfishness. An old woman refusing to write another check was betrayal. "You are mistaken," I said. "I don't want control of the family. I want control of myself." Daniel's shoulders dropped slightly. "Mom, can we just go inside and talk like normal people?" I thought of every conversation in my kitchen that had begun that way. Daniel at the table, looking tired. Vivian beside him, speaking gently. Me pouring coffee. Me listening. Me softening. Me saying yes before they even finished asking. "No," I said. Daniel blinked. "No, no, you cannot come in today." Vivian's face hardened. "This is ridiculous. We are your family." I looked at them through the gap in the door. That sentence used to be enough. It had opened my wallet, opened my home, opened my forgiveness. It had covered lies, excuses, forgotten birthdays, quiet insults, and every small moment when I made myself less so they could feel comfortable taking more. But a word does not stay holy when people use it as a key to rob you. "My family would have protected me at that wedding," I said. "You performed in front of me." Daniel's eyes lowered. Vivian's did not. She leaned closer. "You're going to regret this, Clara." There it was. No sweetness now. No concern. Just the voice underneath. I nodded slowly. "Maybe," I said. "But not as much as I regret ignoring you for this long." Then I closed the door. I heard Vivian gasp on the other side. Daniel knocked once. "Mom." I stood there, hand still on the deadbolt, and waited. He knocked again, softer. I did not answer. After a minute, their footsteps moved away from the porch. A car door opened. Then another. The engine started and faded down the street. Only when the sound disappeared did I breathe out. My hand was shaking against the lock, but the door had stayed closed. And so had I. Tart 11. Warren sent the formal notice 2 days later. He did not ask Daniel for permission to feel ashamed. He did not ask Vivian to explain her intentions. He simply sent the documents by certified mail and email, with copies of the place card proof, Vivian's approval message, Daniel's texts, the public post, and the honeymoon request. Facts laid out in order have a power emotion never could. I received my copy that afternoon. The envelope sat on my kitchen table beside Thomas's photograph. I read every page slowly, not because I doubted Warren, but because I needed to see the truth written in language no one could soften. Public humiliation, financial pressure, attempted manipulation following a family event, potential violation of trust conditions. Those phrases looked cold on paper, but they were not colder than being mocked in a ballroom. Daniel called within an hour. "This time," I answered. His voice was different. Not angry, smaller. "Mom," he said, "what is this?" "A legal notice." "I can read that. I mean, why would you do this?" I looked out the kitchen window. The maple tree in the backyard had begun losing its leaves. Thomas used to say autumn never begged summer to stay. It simply let go when it was time. "I didn't do this, Daniel," I said. "Your father prepared it. You activated it. He was quiet. Then he said, Vivian says Warren is trying to scare us. Warren is doing his job. Mom, this could affect Emily. I know. She just got married. I know that too. My voice did not rise. That surprised me. It seemed to surprise Daniel as well. He took a breath. Emily didn't mean anything by laughing. Vivian told her the card was harmless. I closed my eyes. There it was again. Blame moving around the room like a glass of spilled wine, touching everyone but staining no one. Daniel, I said, Emily is old enough to know when someone is being humiliated. She's young. She is married. That stopped him. For years, everyone had wanted me to treat Emily like an adult when she needed money, but like a child when she caused pain. I was finished with that kind of math. Daniel's voice cracked slightly. Mom, please. Don't take Dad's trust away from us. There it was. Not don't leave us. Not don't stop loving us. Not how can I make this right? Don't take the trust. I looked at Thomas's photograph. For a second, I saw Daniel at 8 years old, running through the backyard with grass stains on his knees. I saw the boy who used to bring me wildflowers because he thought dandelions counted. I saw every version of him I had loved before money and pride and Vivian's voice started standing between us, and I grieved him. Not because he was dead, because the boy I remembered could not answer the phone anymore. The trust was never yours to take, I said. It was your father's way of protecting what he built and the woman he built it with. Daniel did not respond. Then Vivian's voice came through the line. This is cruel, Clara. I almost laughed. But I did not give her that much of me. No, Vivian, I said. Cruel was making me the punchline at my granddaughter's wedding. This is consequence. She went silent. For once, completely silent. I continued. You will receive all communication through Warren from now on. Do not come to my house without an invitation. Do not ask me for money. Do not speak publicly about me again unless you are prepared for the full record to become public. Daniel whispered, Mom! The word hurt. Of course it did. I was still his mother. But motherhood had never required me to remain available for mistreatment. I love you, Daniel, I said, but I will not fund my own humiliation. Then I ended the call. The kitchen was quiet afterward. Not empty. Quiet. There is a difference. I picked up the place card one last time and slid it into the evidence folder. For the first time since the wedding, I did not feel embarrassed when I looked at it. I felt grateful. They had finally written down what they thought of me. And because they had written it down, they could no longer pretend I had imagined it. Tart 12. 6 weeks after the wedding, Warren called me into his office. The same bakery smell was in the lobby. Butter. Cinnamon. Warm apples. For the first time in years, I bought 2 turnovers before going upstairs. One for me. One for Thomas, though I knew I would eat it alone. Warren was waiting with a folder on his desk. He did not smile, but his face was softer than it had been the last time. The trustee has reviewed everything, he said. I sat down slowly. The place card. The email proof. The texts. Vivian's post. Emily's share. Daniel's request for honeymoon money. All of it had been submitted. All of it had been read. Warren folded his hands. Daniel's future distribution has been suspended pending a formal review. Vivian has no standing in the trust, of course, but any attempt by her to influence or pressure you will be documented. Emily's portion will be held until she meets directly with the trustee and acknowledges what happened. I looked down at my purse. I had imagined this moment many times over those 6 weeks. I thought I might feel satisfaction. I did not. What I felt was quieter, heavier, like setting down a suitcase I had carried for too long, only to realize how tired my arms had become. Will they be ruined? I asked. Warren shook his head. No, Thomas didn't design the trust to ruin anyone. He designed it to teach them that access to family wealth is not the same as ownership of a person. I swallowed hard. That sounded like Thomas. Firm, but never cruel. Before I left, Warren handed me an envelope. This came through my office yesterday, from Emily. I did not open it until I got home. I sat at the kitchen table where the place card had once rested like a wound. The afternoon light moved across the floor, touching the same cabinets, the same old clock, the same quiet rooms that had seen me cry, rage, and finally become still. Emily's handwriting was on the front. Inside was a short letter. "Grandma, I'm sorry. I knew about the card before the wedding. Mom said it was funny and that you wouldn't mind. I laughed because everyone else did. That is not an excuse. I should have stopped it. I should have thanked you properly. I don't know if you can forgive me, but I'm sorry. Not because of the trust. Because I hurt you. I read it once. Then again. Then I placed it beside Thomas's photograph. It was not enough to erase what happened. But it was the first honest thing anyone in that family had given me in a long time. Daniel's apology came later. Not in person. Not at first. A letter arrived 3 days after Emily's. It was stiff, awkward, and full of sentences that sounded like a man trying to speak without his wife handing him the words. But near the end, he wrote, "I forgot you were my mother before you were anyone's financial safety net. I am ashamed of that." That sentence stayed with me. Vivian never apologized. She sent one message through Daniel, saying she hoped we could move forward without bitterness. I did not respond. Moving forward does not always require inviting everyone to come with you. That Thanksgiving, 1 year after the wedding, I hosted dinner again. Not at the Rosewood Grand, not in a ballroom, in my own dining room. There were fewer people at the table. Warren and his wife came. My neighbor Mrs. Holloway brought sweet potatoes. Emily came alone and helped me set the plates. She did not try to hug me right away. I appreciated that. Daniel arrived 10 minutes late, carrying flowers. No Vivian. He stood in the doorway, looking older than I remembered. "Hi, Mom," he said. For a moment, I saw the boy with grass stains on his knees. Then I saw the man who had hurt me. Both were true. "Hello, Daniel," I said. He handed me the flowers. "I'm not here to ask for anything." I looked at him for a long moment. Then I stepped aside. "Then you can come in." Dinner was quiet at first, careful. No one mentioned the wedding. No one mentioned the trust. But when Emily passed me the cranberry sauce, her hand brushed mine and she whispered, "Thank you for letting me be here." I nodded. That was all. Forgiveness, I learned, is not a door you throw open. Sometimes it is a chair you leave at the table without promising it will always stay there. After everyone left, I washed the good china by hand. Thomas's pearls rested at my throat. The house smelled of roasted turkey and coffee. I took the old place card from the evidence folder one last time. Clara Bennett. Main sponsor. Seat wherever there's room. I looked at it without shaking. Then I tore it in half. Not because the evidence no longer mattered. Because it no longer owned me. I placed the pieces in the trash, turned off the kitchen light, and stood for a moment in the quiet house Thomas had loved. For years, I thought being needed was the same as being loved. It is not. Love does not make you earn a seat. Love does not laugh when you are humiliated. And love never asks you to pay for the privilege of being included. That night, before going upstairs, I touched Thomas's photograph and smiled. "They finally saw me," I whispered. Then I corrected myself. No, I finally saw myself. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough.